don't know if not everybody has met Sam Whaley.
Right.
Obviously he's our sponsor sailor. So with Actisense as a company, we sponsor Sam like a monthly sponsorship fee to help him pay for things like sails and things for his boat and so on. And in return, he sticks Actisense stickers all over his sails.
Yeah.
And we've been working together for how many years now? Is it 4, 5 years?
Yeah, four. I think 5 years at the end of this year. So
Yeah.
4 years so far.
Yeah, so it's been a little while. Sam did like a couple of weeks with us one summer as well, in between his events and things, and he was making various 3D things with Doug and all sorts of things to do with sailing, so that was kind of cool. But we thought it'd be nice to, Michelle and I went to a presentation down at Swanage Yacht Club back in December,
Yeah,
was it?
December, yeah.
Yeah, and we thought it would be a great opportunity for him to do the same presentation for you guys, because it's just interesting we thought that was a very interesting journey, the way he's kind of like approaches things and what you've got to do to actually get to the Olympics. So obviously we hope that he's going to get there next year. It's as he'll describe it, is quite a long and arduous journey to actually get to be that one selected sailor. So I think I'll pass over to Sam so that he can describe his journey.
Yeah, so I thought I'd talk today about the journey to the Olympic Games, which are in Paris next year. So I've been kind of pursuing this full time now since 2016, so it's been quite a few years for me to put myself to this. I'm now 25 as well, so I do feel like I'm getting old somewhat. Anyway, so we've got 521 days until the Games actually start next year, which sounds like loads, kind of a year and a bit, but in reality, there's not a huge amount of time, definitely considering I've spent so many years trying to get to this place. It really seems like tomorrow. And potentially, there's only 192 days before someone could get selected from Great Britain to go to the Games. So out of all the guys and all the sailors who are trying to get there, there's only one in my group, in the laser, who actually gets selected, which is pretty brutal. Unfortunately, it's not like the 100 metres in athletics where you can get 3 from one nation, for example. You just have to qualify. It is just one from each nation versus each other. So yeah, one space we're going for. And potentially in 192 days, someone could get selected. So it could almost be over, or could be the next starts and then great by September this year, which is pretty cool. So a bit about what I sail the laser. So if you've ever gone sailing or gone on a beach club holiday or something like that, you've probably seen the laser before. They're just a one-person dinghy, very simple. Everyone's got the same boat, so it's kind of it should be the sailor that makes the difference, not the boat, not the equipment that will make the difference. So yeah, that's a picture of me sailing my laser with the little British Sailing Team logos on it and everything, and Actisense. So yeah, the idea is we can go anywhere in the world and get a laser, and it should be the same as my laser back here in the UK. So it is called a laser, but it's also, they've rebranded it to Ilka. So if you see online, it's a weird name these days. So that's why I thought I'd put that name there. So going back to the start of my journey, I learned to sail in Swanage over there, just over from Poole Harbour, just in a Pico, which if you've ever done learn to sail courses, I'm sure you would have seen a Pico and stuff. So very basic stuff. But then I sort of quickly started to caught the bug in 2010 and started like, right, okay, I want to train, I want to get as good as possible, sort of dreamt about maybe going to the Olympics. So this was only 13 years ago, and yeah, I was pretty excited and full of energy back then. And then so going through my journey, really fast tracking it, kind of started doing national events in 2012. So alongside my sort of school, I was like, okay, I'll go to a national event at the weekend and stuff and see how I get on. And I wasn't particularly good at the time at all, but I was always like, right, okay, let's do it. This is possible. I'll just put in more effort than everyone else and see how far I could go. And then in 2016, so a few years later, I was just finished A-levels and kind of then sort of was like, okay, I'll go and do some international events, and kind of started to get reasonably close to the top of my age group in the UK, which is pretty cool. I left school in 2015 and I actually did an apprenticeship at Microsoft for a year, which is pretty cool, up in Reading. And that was really cool to sort of go and do sort of a normal job, normal life for a bit. But my sailing got pretty serious at the same time, and obviously Reading isn't very near the sea. So it was pretty difficult to do the sailing as well. And as the sailing commitments grew, I kind of realised I had to commit one way or the other. And I kind of thought, okay, let's give sailing a shot, see if I can get to the Olympics and win a medal, and figure out the rest of my life from that point onwards. So after 2016, I kind of went full-time sailing, and I had my final year of under 21. So we have like under 21 competitions, which is the final year before you're in the senior stuff. So under 21, I was like, okay, let's try and do as best I possibly can. And I got 4th at the under 21 Europeans and 5th at the under 21 Worlds, which was, I thought, pretty cool. That's kind of something that I'd been dreaming of for years. I've never actually been to the top 10 in an age category in the world ever. But I managed to have a really nice year and had a pretty solid year, so I was pretty happy with that one. But from that point onwards, I was in the senior fleet. So from the senior fleet, I was like, okay, well, it's a completely different ball game in the senior fleet. The level just goes up massively. And when you get the level increase so much, I was like, okay, I need a really good support network around me. I need to get everything together to do this campaign. Now, the Tokyo Olympics were meant to be in 2021. So I was like, it was quite a sort of rush. I had to gather everyone together, try and find sponsors, and obviously Phil Michelle and Actisense, we got together in 2018, which was great. And then I was like, okay, let's fully go for this now. So senior sailing is a bit more of a challenge. We're faced with pretty tough conditions most of the time. It's a very different ballpark to youth sailing. And we get conditions like this quite often, so we go and train in some really cool places around the world. But we also get some quite ridiculous conditions sometimes, massive waves. Trying to learn how to deal with this stuff is great fun at the same time. That's obviously a pretty big day out in Palma in Mallorca actually. So it's not even that's not even the biggest. That's just the biggest I've ever got on camera. So I've also managed to, in 2019, I was really lucky enough to. The US sailing team paid me to go, or paid for my plane ticket to go to San Francisco to train again. So I got to sail under the Golden Gate Bridge, which was really cool. And a lovely place, but there was quite a strong tide there, as you can see here. And you're kind of trying as hard as possible sailing forwards, and sometimes it felt like you were going backwards. As you can see here, I'm trying to go around this mark, and it wasn't going very well. This video actually goes on for another minute and a half, and I still don't make it round. But yeah, it's really cool to have got the opportunity to go to these cool places and then compete at these international regattas. So the sort of senior fleet is all about competing internationally and then hopefully going to the Olympics and medaling. So in 2019, at the end of 2019, my world ranking I was 66th in the world, which was pretty cool, pretty commendable, but obviously my aspirations were to be number one, so it was alright, okay, I need to improve that. And then obviously COVID happened, which was a bit interesting, and it's quite a difficult, tricky period for someone whose job relies on you going out in the water every day. Obviously it's quite difficult to do that when you're working from home inside. So we kind of obviously when I moved back to Swanage, we did no travelling, and it was all kind of, everyone was in that kind of bubble for that first lockdown. And then obviously that kind of was like, oh well, what exactly do you do to keep your performance up and high, and so when we come out of lockdown I can then move forward. And obviously lockdown was a bit of a performance, it's a bit wavy, but I kind of thought, well, what I do in lockdown there surely will determine how I can then get back to peak performance when we come out of lockdown. So I did just a lot of sort of mental training. We actually played, like, we had e-sailing games, so sailing kind of moved online, but actually it was really good for stuff like improving your reactions. And generally I just tried to make the most of every day, cycled a lot and got my fitness really high. So whilst we couldn't do much, at least I tried to make the most of it anyway. So and then, so obviously lockdown finished, and actually the biggest probably decision I've ever made in my sailing career was like, right, okay, I need to move down to Weymouth and try and live in Weymouth right next to the team base. We've got like great performance team base down in Weymouth at the moment. We've got like a gym, a support staff, we've got the sailing academy which we sail from. And I thought, cool, right, let's go to Weymouth. We're allowed on the water and we can sail every day. And whilst we can't travel internationally, at least as a squad of us, four guys down there, we could try and improve. So yeah, off I went to Weymouth, and then so we spent the whole summer in Weymouth. Did one event in the autumn, which was the Europeans, which was a bit sketchy because there were countries locking down and stuff, and we weren't sure if the event was going to go ahead, but just about did, and I got a new PB, and I moved up to 55th in the world rankings. So that was kind of, I felt like that was a massive stepping stone. It was my best result to date. And I was like, okay, well, this is possible. So then 2021 and everything from that point onwards, we kind of thought, right, well, what are we going to do over the winter? Obviously 2021 winter was a bit rubbish for kind of COVID and lockdowns and stuff. So before the lockdown, just managed to basically moved to Portugal for the winter with pretty much no one else. And we're like, right, well, at least if we're in Portugal, we can get an elite sport exemption, so we can sail in Portugal. They were quite relaxed about that sort of aspect. And at least it's relatively nice weather, so we can actually train and compete and stuff. So managed to spend the whole sort of first half of the year there, doing a lot of sailing events and training and stuff. And so by the end of last year, 2021, I ended up improving my world ranking to 40th, which was quite a sort of a solid foundation, I'd like to say, my performance. And then 2022, so last year was kind of the big year where I was like, okay, well, now I've got to actually solidly perform on every event, try and get some good results on the card down so that I can head into this year with a really solid chance and to win a medal at the Olympics. So I had an awesome first year, first proper year and first sort of selection of events, and I managed to finish 11th at the World Championships and 5th at the Europeans, which was my best results by far for that I've ever had. And I also finished 2nd at the WASP World Championships, which are these cool foiling boat things. They kind of fly above the water, and that's kind of a bit of fun to do on the side. But the advantage of that is that it really helps your fitness and your sort of mental decision making when you're going so fast on the water. It's great to sort of get great practice for when I go back into my laser. And so I kind of, because of the hard work I did last year, the latest world rankings came out last week actually, and I managed to move up to 3rd in the world rankings. So yeah, which is really a great start to the year really. I didn't really have any bad events last year, which was great. I managed to keep my head and just focus on myself, my performance, and yeah, to come out with 3rd going into the 3rd in the world rankings this year is pretty cool. So at the moment, that's brilliant to look at it like that. Unfortunately, the other 2 guys in front of me also happen to be my 2 teammates.
I was going to ask that.
So the great thing about having, so there's four of us guys in the squad who sail against each other, and the advantage of having those guys, it's really great. We can always push each other every day to perform and bounce off each other. The disadvantage of that is we all get good together, and as you can see, they're just ahead of me, these other 2, Mickey and Elliot. So So the plan for this year is to find a way to overtake them and to hopefully get that Olympic spot. But it's pretty bloody close between all of us at the moment.
Either that or apply for Australian citizenship.
Yes, yeah, exactly. The cool thing is this is the first time ever in history that we've had British 1, 2, 3 for the world in the world rankings, which is really cool. But at the same time, I wish I want to be there, not third.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are my competitors. So Mickey, Elliot, Dan. So at the moment I'm obviously ranked third. Mickey and Elliot are first, and Dan's like in 20th place. So we've got a nice group of guys. But we're all vying for that one single spot. So it's going to be a really interesting year to see how this year goes. So kind of this is like my sort of typical calendar. So this is my calendar from last year, 2022. As you can see, there's kind of things going on pretty much all the time, and events or training that I'm looking forward to. So I'm pretty busy, and then this year, moving forward, these are the key events. So Prince Sophia and Hyères in France. So it's kind of end of March and April for these two events. And then we've got the Olympic test event in July. And then the World Championships are in August. So that's kind of, but the key ones are these three events highlighted. So fingers crossed they'll all go to plan. And that's it for my presentation. So thanks very much for listening. And